This is my review of Nightmares and Geezenstacks. But before we dive into my thoughts, I want to give a little background on Frederic Brown, an author I knew nothing about before getting into this book. He wrote over 300 short stories and at least 37 novels. He wrote science fiction, fantasy, horror, and even a bit of general fiction. This book was written as a collection of horror flash fiction 30 years before the term flash fiction had even been coined. Uh, he wrote a story that was adapted for Star Trek and Alfred Hitchcock, and in 1987, Guillermo del Toro used one of his stories to create Geometria, a short fantasy horror comedy film. In Dance Macabre, Stephen King's non-fiction book covering horror fiction in film, print, comics, TV, and radio, he lists Nightmares and Geezenstacks as one of the more important books of the horror genre. His career began in 1936 when he started selling mystery short stories to American magazines, and he didn't stop writing until his death in 1972 at the age of 65. His works include a story written in the early 50s called Answer about a supercomputer that frees itself from human control, and he has satirical works and parodies about pulp sci-fi such as 1949's What Mad Universe and 1955's Martians Go Home, which went on to become a movie in 1990 starring Randy Quaid. Remember Randy Quaid? I I could go on and on, but I need to read more of his works before I rave about them as much as I'm going to rave about this book. Spoiler alert, I really enjoyed this book. I found I found some recent fiction. Let me grab that real quick. Half Price Books logo still on it. We've got Space on My Hands. Uh, it's just a nine dazzling tales by the first master of fantasy, Frederic Brown. I don't know if he's the first master of fantasy, but I really enjoy his writing, so I'll be excited to get to that. I want to talk about my copy real quick. It's a wonderful hardcover. It's such great quality, and it's from Valancourt Books, and it's a publisher I'd never heard of. And I was digging through their website, and it looks like they're a independent small press, and their whole goal is to find rare, neglected, or out of print fiction in the gothic horror and supernatural genres and just get them printed again, like get them out there. Like you can pick it up from them. They have cheap shipping. It's like I think they have $4 flat rate in the US, and they do paperbacks, they do hardcovers. You can get digital copies. It's just it's awesome. Like it's so refreshing to find a website like this. I'll try to take a couple screenshots of the website or some footage and share in here, just scrolling through their main page, because they've got some very cool stuff and some very cool stuff coming, which include a collection that I read recently, and I might have to pre-order a copy. I'm not sponsored by Valancourt Books or anything. I've never spoken to them. I just really appreciate their website and what they're doing. Like that's what they're doing is like a life goal of mine is find the out of print stuff that I really enjoy and convince people to give me money to print them so I can have a copy and then I can sell the rest. So I'm just happy that there's people out there doing it. Nightmares and Geezenstacks is without a doubt my favorite collection of short horror I have ever read. Uh, that may change as I dive deeper into the genre. Writers like Manly Wade Wellman and Carl Edward Wagner have been giving him a run for his money. Uh, I do admit I'm not as well versed in horror or short fiction as I think I should be, but this book is a gem. I've never been a fan of short fiction, but I guess I should revise that statement and say I had never found short fiction I really enjoyed. Every single story in this book was somewhere between good and great. To elaborate a little further, I've I've read a fair amount of short fiction. Mostly it was in science fiction and fantasy, but I think that horror is just so good for short fiction. I think that really helps Frederic Brown shine. His writing style is perfect for it. I'd have to dig into his novels to really know if his ability as a short fiction writer translates to long form. And I'm really excited to dig into some of his books I listed in this video. I mean, I already said I absolutely love the book, but let me give some descriptions of some of my favorite stories, along with a trigger warning about a specific story. Like this this story is rough, and so like my wife wants to listen to the audiobook, and so I am going to edit out that story because it's not her cup of tea. If you have an aversion to child death or aquaphobia, you should just avoid Nightmare in Blue. That's the one I'm warning you about. It's seriously one of the most impactful and horrifying stories I've ever read. It isn't graphic and it isn't gory, but as a parent to a young child, it hits hard. It is a gut punch, and like it is, ugh. I still think about it like almost every day, and I read it over a week ago, 2 weeks ago now. I'm going to share how the book starts, and I'm going to try to avoid spoilers, and I'm not going to dig too deep into the book because one of the best things about it is just the fiction's so short that you just flip to the next one, flip to the next one. I mean, some of them are half a page long, some of them are like 15 or 20 pages long. And it's just so cool to be able to finish the story and immediately be like, what's next? What's next? I got to know. And it starts with Nasty, a story about a lecherous old man making a deal with a demon and getting exactly what he asked for. And followed by Abominable, a story about an adventurer hunting for yetis with a absolutely hilarious ending. Brown has great timing, and this book can easily jump from trauma-inducing horror to a story that ends with a funny punchline, which just, like I said earlier, just makes you want to dig further and further in the book and just keep reading to see what he comes up with next. Will it be terror? Will it be a dirty joke? It's like, read on and find out. There's also a story about baseball in the distant future, which I really enjoyed. It's got a pretty good little twist ending. I don't want to dig any further into the book. I worry I might spoil some of the best stories. My recommendation is buy this and give it a read. I highly recommend it. Let me know in the comments if you've read it or any other books from Frederic Brown that you would recommend. Thanks for watching.